Hello everyone. This video is my assignment about the course project of human factors in AI. As a part of this assignment, we need to select a machine learning problem and we need to design the user experience for that problem, machine learning, and also evaluate the privacy and ethical implications of the product that uses that machine learning model. So without further ado, let me jump directly into the solution. In terms of the problem that we have selected here is to help users of multiple credit cards optimize the usage of their credit cards so that they can maximize the reward points that they accumulate across all the different credit cards, while also being able to optimize it in terms of their offer spends. The task analysis would go something like this. So the trigger would be for the user the need to make a purchase with a credit card, and this is applicable for users who have multiple credit cards. The action that the user would perform next would be to check for offers applicable across all the different credit cards and the quantum of rewards through each card based on the category of purchase that the user is going to make and the reward scheme applicable for the card. In fact, for most current users, they might not even do this action step. They might actually directly jump into the stage of making a decision randomly and picking any credit card based on their top of the mind recall or something, without actually giving it due consideration in terms of whether that helps them maximize the point usage or not. But in case there are some savvy users who are taking this decision based on actual data, this is how it's going to work out. So they are going to go to the respective bank's apps through which the credit card was issued, and they are going to look for information regarding currently available offers as well as the reward scheme, and then they can make an informed decision as to which credit card they should be using to make the purchase. This leads to the next set of action here would be to use the selected card to make the purchase whether it's on a particular e-commerce app or in a POS terminal of a particular merchant. And the end objective is to maximize the reward points accumulated across all the different credit cards through the different purchases. Next point is what insights from the task analysis that we can gather in terms of how we might be able to simplify the task flow or improve the user's experience with the task. Now, based on this task flow, it's clear that the challenge for users is twofold. So one is they don't have a central repository from where they can get the information on the different reward schemes that is applicable on the different credit cards that they own. And they also won't be getting any personalized insights or recommendations as to which card they should be using to make the current purchase. The solution for this would be a product containing an algorithm which collects and updates the user's rewards points data into one single app, so they have one single source of truth, and then the algorithm will analyze the user's historical transaction using these cards, based on which it will make a recommendation in terms of which card he or she should be using to make the next purchase. The user experience design will look like this. The user will download the app, and the user will consent or allow the app to read the emails of the user which has the credit card statements. The system will read the different statements, and it will also identify the different cards that the user possesses, and the user can actually confirm that yes, this is indeed the card that the user is currently using. The user will be able to see on the app for each credit card the different available offers against each card, the reward points that they have accumulated against each card, and which are the different categories on which if they spend with a particular credit card, they are likely to get some reward points, and what those reward points would be. The users will also be able to enter details of their upcoming spends. So let's say if the user is about to make a purchase, then the user can select which category the user is planning to make the purchase, through which app, what is the total spend amount, etc. And based on these inputs, the system can recommend to the user which credit card the user should use to make the purchase. The approach takes into account the following considerations in terms of user input. The user will be able to pre-purchase. The user will be able to input uh, what kind of purchase the user is about to make, where the user is about to make that purchase, and based on which the user will be provided a recommendation. Post purchase, the user will also have the option to input details about which card the user actually used to make the purchase and why. So this acts kind of like a feedback loop for the system. In terms of transparency, while making the recommendation to the user on the card that the user should be using to make the purchase, the model will inform the user on the reason why it is making the recommendation. This way, the user knows what factors has been taken into account behind the recommendation, and if the user prefers to, and the user can actually make an informed decision whether he or she wants to go along with the recommendation that the application is making, or whether they want to go via a different route. In terms of uncertainty, the model will inform the user on the potential year-end reward points the user can accumulate with the different degrees of certainty. So that way the user will know how certain the model is in terms of its recommendation. Privacy considerations. So since the app can read the user's credit card statements, of course there are privacy considerations that comes into play. So the model needs to inform the user what data would be used, how it will be used, and how the user's privacy would be protected, whether this data would be shared with any kind of third-party vendor or not. So all this information needs to be available on the app. The different laws that might be applicable to the product. One law is the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. The obligation that we to create for the product is that the consumers must be informed as to what data would be used and how the data would be used, and the user should also be provided with an opt-out from the service that the product provides. Second would be the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The obligation that it creates is that the consumers should be allowed the right to edit their credit card usage information if he or she feels that the information is incorrect or not up to date. The third is the GDPR, and it creates the obligation to inform the user what data is being collected, how it is being used, and the user should have control over whether or not that data gets shared with any kind of third-party vendor. Ethical considerations. There are no major sources of bias that can creep into this model, since there is no demographic information or there is no other sensitive information besides the financial transactions that the user has made. Essentially, the system would be using the user's historical data, and based on that, it will be making recommendation to the user in terms of which card they should be using for the upcoming purchase. There is a chance of a data drift that can happen, which is different from bias, and it can happen if the user's spend pattern changes significantly over time. In terms of fairness, the model will be fair by basing its decisions solely on the reward point scheme of each credit card and the user's historical spend pattern. So there is no scope for unfairness in the model. Accountability. At the end of each quarter, the model should showcase, or the product should showcase, the additional reward points that the user has achieved by following its recommendations. So that way it can actually help the user understand in terms of how much of additional reward points that the user has been able to accumulate through following its recommendation. End user should also be provided with the capability to provide feedback on the app and raise any kind of customer complaint, whereby it would reach a customer support group, and the customer support group should write back to the customer or get in touch with the customer to address any kind of complaints. Transparency. The model will always inform the user as to why it is recommending the usage of a particular card and what factors are influencing the recommendation. So this way the user knows exactly how the recommendation was generated, and then the user can take an informed decision as to whether she wants to follow the recommendation or take a different decision. So the user need not have to follow the recommendation blindly. This is the end of the assignment. Thank you.